Welcome to DISCflex certification.
At DISCflex, we're also a training and development company that uh, provides PowerPoints and courses and train the trainer materials. So what we had to do with any of these behavioral models is come up with a model, and the model is called PBA, Performance Behavior Attendance Model. And by far, the easiest thing to change is where the person will work and what times. That's the attendance. Second is performance. You can get somebody to up their skills fairly easily with education, training, development, all that type of stuff. And people kind of gravitate to that fairly quickly. By far, the hardest for management and leadership to change is employee behavior. And again, that's what gets people into the most trouble. So what we did was we said, well, how do we actually coach and mentor somebody with DISCflex? And is there a model that we can use to actually adjudicate behavior, helping people to get to the next level, regardless of the job that they're in? Because as you go through the corporate ranks, as you rise in your career, your behaviors will expand and your flexibility should expand as well. But how do we kind of compress the timeline that it takes to do that? And that's what this certification is all about, is teaching you to shorten the timeline where people are more behaviorally mature and have a better chance of promotability at a younger age. That is what we're trying to do here. So we came up with another model called the Performance Behavior Matrix, and I'm super excited about it. We actually have another course on this, and I'm going to take you through just 2 or 3 minutes of the basics of the Performance Behavior Matrix. I just wanted to mention before we go on that we have given you a copy of the slides that I'm going through as part of this certification. If you want any more information, please do phone our offices. Our information is out on DISCflex.com, and we welcome any comments or give us a call, contact us. I just wanted to put that right up front. So the Performance Behavior Matrix, like I said, we do behavior indexing. We want to make sure that the person is growing their behavioral flexibility, and their long-term morphing, if that's what they choose to do. We also wanted to make sure that we have performance indexing, that we can actually help a person grow in their performance skills as well. And that would be growing their competence, leading to promotability. So that's what this matrix is all about. And I highly recommend that you look at the matrix that we're putting up on the screen right now. One of the most important things about this is that you have to remember that any employee, whether it is the CEO of a company, a mid-level manager, an intern coming into the business environment, they all start at the entry level for that position. That is what this matrix is built on. So you could have gotten to a vice president level and been promoted to CFO, and you start right down at P1, B1. And you'll notice that the two axes on this model are performance on one side, on the bottom, and the axis that is going vertically is the behavior. So if you look at P1, B1, that is where you start. Typical entry level employee. And that's important to understand, because you've got to learn the behaviors for that particular position, because you will be adjudicated on them as well as performance. So what we're trying to do is ascertain how quickly a person can move up in this 16 block model from P1, B1, B3, B4 to P1, P2, P3, P4, and find out where they are on that axis. So, we always say to people, if you look at only the performance of somebody and you don't look at their behavior, and you pull your finger across to that quadrant, you're going to quickly figure out that you've grown a prima donna in your organization. They are very highly skilled performance wise, but it's not anybody that people like to work with. And then on the other side, if you have somebody who's very behaviorally adept, they're just a lovely person and they love their job, but they don't have the performance behind that. They don't really know how to do the task. We call that a bounding puppy. Neither one of these things is desirable. So the ideal is to try and get up into this green zone here, where you're going up to what Collins called a level 5 leader, where you're going into that final box. Now, not everybody gets there in their position. In fact, a lot of people get promoted out when they get to one of those 4 boxes up in that right hand side and top quadrant, which is okay. That happens all the time. But your goal is to get up into that green zone. And if you don't move properly with your behavior or your performance, you're not going to be in that position very long. And by far, the one that gets you into the most trouble, again, is your behavior. So this is the end game, is to adjudicate and teach people how to move along the behavioral spectrum. So how do we do that? Super easy. We use DISCflex and we use the components in there to teach people how to flex their behavior. So let's move right along. I just wanted to let you know that if you have used any of the other DISC instruments, there are a few that are digitized in the world. We are not the only one. We think that we're one of the best. It's okay. This certification will take you through that as well, because we're all based on Marston's model. So what we have to talk about now basically is, what is the DISCflex version of DISC? And basically, we concentrate on dialing up and dialing down those behaviors. So we're going to talk about that at length in just a little while. We also want you to determine when to use situational behavioral flexing. When do you have to listen more? When do you have to speak up more? When is it appropriate to be super hyped and motivated? And when is it better to be calm? So that you can use behavioral shifts to your benefit, and then you can teach coachees or mentees how to do the same. The one thing about all forms of DISC is it allows for a solid identification of what behavioral morphing needs to occur. I did mention that I am an executive coach, and I meet with people all the time, and myself as well, where I've had to do some long-term behavioral morphing. Just as a matter of interest, I always tell people I am a naturally 92% D. Well, in my younger years, that wasn't appropriate for all situations, because I would be charging out of the gate like a wild pony. I was very quick to anger, and I would get frustrated and annoyed very, very quickly on the negative side. On the positive side, I got a whole ton of stuff done all the time. I sleep very little. It's just that natural tendency I have. So 92 on the D. On the I, I'm an 87% I. I love people. I love conversations with strangers. That is my I tendency. I gravitated to this field, training, development, speaking to people all the time. I get my batteries charged up by interacting with people. And it's just who I am. My S, my thoughtfulness, I have had to work on. I have worked and morphed into a very adept researcher, because that is what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into behavioral research. So my natural S when I started was in the low 40s, and it has grown and grown and grown in those behaviors where I can sit still, I can strategize, I can teach other people to do it. It has become a strategic, long-term morphing muscle for me, and I'm proud to say that I've worked on that for my whole life. My compliance is 8. I rarely meet people with a lower compliance than mine. Uh, The low compliance means that you're innovative. It means that you go around every single rule. You don't like details very much. And I have tended to be at the high end of non-detail organization. And I don't like a lot of organization. I don't like to be tied down very much. But that's who I am. That's not really going to change, nor do I want it to change. We change DISCflex because we are innovative. We continue to innovate. So I don't want to morph that behavior to anything less than what it is. But I do have to fit in, and I do have to do planning. So that situational flexing is very important. Now, the conversation I've just had about myself is the conversation I want you to have about yourself too. Get real, get honest, and understand DISC and what you can do with it in terms of flexing and morphing. That's what is super important. So we're going to give you the tools, the knowledge, the information that you can create a great deal of self-awareness in yourself and have others do the same, which is super important. You're going to understand your natural behavioral tendencies, and you're also going to understand your limitations as well and the warning signs. I know all too well the power of a high D and the dangers of a high D. Same with the low C. I know that. Now, the one important thing that I always tell people is there's no perfect DISC pattern. We are what we are. We're all unique. And it takes a lot of behavioral diversity to get things done on this planet. You don't have to strive to be like somebody else. Take your natural behaviors and use them to your best benefit. That is super important. So that's the first thing, is there's nothing wrong with who you are or who you want to be behaviorally.